Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry, part one started getting a little long. I didn't want to make it a 30-minute video, so I broke it at 15, 16 minutes or so. Let's do part two. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about players. In part one, we were targeting teams that are in line to historically perform fairly consistently, and we were focused on the implied team total of 3.5. We'll come back. Maybe we'll do a real quick part three, and I'll show you a neat little tool that Nadesfi shows in the coaching forums, and something that I think helps us use different modeling to either confirm or kind of identify something where Vegas might be wrong. So stay tuned for that. We'll see if we can't bring that one into the fold either towards the very end of this video or in another one. But we noted that 3.4 and above in implied team total typically is going to lead to the type of scoring that you need for your player to hit consistently. Sorry about the door creak and the kid in the background, but anyway, what we're going to do is try to target those teams implied over 3.4, and then we're going to look for the goals for and then the opposing team's goals against to see if we get a kind of a green light here and a red light here, because that's going to indicate a team that is playing bad defense. You don't go wrong identifying or targeting teams that play bad defense, because the opposing team tends to score. So that's always usually a pretty strong indicator. Another thing that we can do is we can dive in a little bit to, and we talked goalies a little bit too, but we can also dive into some of the player pool. And if you don't understand the way this sheet is broken down, let me explain to you using Tampa Bay as an example. You've got your top line scorers and your top line defensive pairing, and those guys are typically where the studs lie. You know, that's who's going to be out there the most. Theoretically, that's who's going to be getting most of the scoring chances. That's where the talent is teamed up with the talent. Some teams spread it out a little bit. Some teams really, really focus it. You will learn that maybe as you dive in a little bit deeper into the sport. But for the basics, we want to focus line one and line two scorers typically, because they're the ones that are on the ice doing the scoring. Line three is a supplementary line. Line four is definitely a supplementary line. And it doesn't mean those guys don't score. It means they don't get a lot of opportunity. They're not on the ice a lot, and therefore they're very unpredictable as to when they will happen to score a goal. So it's hard to target those guys with any kind of confidence. Large field GPP type stuff for sure. Cash games hardly ever. And of course every angle in between. But the other thing that we focus on is the power play. And the power play unit is obviously when a team takes a penalty, they send a guy to the penalty box, and for a couple of minutes, one team has 5 men on the ice and the other team has 4 men on the ice. And that's a decided advantage, an offensive situation for the team on the quote-unquote power play. And that's going to be the types of skaters, again, where we're putting our goal scorers out there. We're putting our best of our best out there, because this is a very advantageous position for us, and we want to take advantage and exploit the other team while they're, kind of kick them while they're down, if you will. And that gives us the best opportunity to do so. I like to focus myself on players that serve on at least one of the power play units and then are on some of these top lines. These guys that are all on the second line that don't serve any power play time, I'm not a big fan. Because for me, I would almost look down here towards the guys on the third line that are on the second power play unit, because they're going to get a little bit more opportunity to score than somebody who's not, if that makes sense. I like to do two things in tournament situations. I love stacking the full power play, and I love it when these guys are also on an even strength line. When they're not on the power play, they're still out there together, because now these three guys are going to get, if a goal comes off of this line, whether it be on the power play or at even strength, I've got a very good chance at getting the goal and both assists, which stacks points, correlates points, and drives me up a leaderboard in a very, very quick fashion. It's like stacking in baseball. It's like stacking your quarterback and your wide receiver. You get all of the points for that event. And that's very, very important in hockey, because there are a lot of points for goals and assists, and you want them all if you can get them. Defensemen will oftentimes overlap these lines. This is not a full 5-man unit. Just because they've all 5 got ones doesn't mean they're all a 5-man unit. The defensemen will sometimes stay out on the ice while the 1 and the 2 change. So you get a little overlap. These 1s will have some exposure to the 2s and to the 3s. And so your defenseman, if he's involved in a scoring play, you might get the assist if it comes off of this line or this one. You see what I'm saying? So that does help a little bit. I don't mind running, these guys together with a defenseman, But one of the things that I like to do when I'm aiming for more of a high floor and for more of a cash game type of situation is I'm looking to spread out a little bit. This here with all three guys always on the ice together is very, very boom or bust. It's going to have a really good night if they get a goal, or it's going to have a really bad night if they don't get a goal. And it's 3 of your 9 players or 10 players or whatever right there all at once. It's a third of your offense, a third of your lineup. And so that's a large percentage that you're depending on to have a good night. And so in cash games, that's not real safe. That's not something that you can really depend on to get you over the 50-50 line unless it connects. So I like to spread out a little bit. I like to take guys that are on the power play 1 or on the regular line 1 and the regular line 2. And I like to see when they mix things up a little bit with some of these power play lines. And this is not a good example here. So let's run over here to Toronto. And let's show you that on the top line, Tavares, Kapanen, and Marner are on the top line. But they're not all on the top power play line. Kapanen's on the 2. So I can take Tavares and Kapanen, and I get them at even strength where they're out there on the ice together. But on the power play, they're broken up a little bit. So if the power play 2 does the scoring, I might get lucky and have some access to it. If I come down here and look at the second line of scoring, I've got another 2. So if I wanted to, and I've got 1s, if I wanted to, I could take Kapanen on the power play 2, and I could correlate him with Nylander, who's also on the power play 2. But he's on the second even strength line. So now I've got 2 guys that are out here on the ice at opposite times at even strength, but they team up on the power play. So I've got an even spread of guys out there on the ice at any given time. I don't have 3 skaters, but I've often got 2. And what that allows me to do is, like if I had Tavares Kapanen teamed up with Nylander, I've got Kapanen and Nylander on the second power play unit, and I've got Kapanen and Tavares on the first even strength line. So I've pretty much almost always got 2 guys out there on the ice. So when a goal happens, there is an increased chance that I've got at least a piece of it. And that's going to not be quite as boom or bust, which is going to then raise my floor a little bit and keep my lineup maybe a little bit safer in what is otherwise a very volatile sport. Is it a guarantee? Of course not, because we've still got lines 3 and lines 4. But it does help. Okay, so now if I targeted out the Tampa Bay Lightning and I wanted to focus on players for tonight's game because I've identified Tampa Bay as being in a great spot, who would I look for? Well, I would look for the top line guys, like I said. I would look maybe I can run, all 3 wings, all 3 forwards. I can run 2 forwards and a defenseman. I can take one guy from one line, one from another, and hopefully overlap on a power play. Or I can take both off of the same power play and overlap with different scoring lines. There's a bunch that right there is 4, 5, 6 combinations that I can run in that same offense. So you can see why you have to take stands in multi-entry tournaments and things. And you have to just leave some things out there. You can't cover all the bases. There's just too many moving pieces in hockey. But if you focus largely on the top scoring lines in the first 2 power play units, you're generally getting the guys that have the best opportunity to score. But now I'm going to look for who is doing the damage right now. Hockey, like baseball, is a pretty streaky sport. And so I would look at the last 10 games and the last 5 games and see who's running well. I might look at the line total number, 17 goals in the last 10 games, 11 assists, 74 shots. That's pretty strong. Down here, 5 goals, 7 assists, 38 shots. Not nearly as strong, right? Not nearly as good. So I would be focused more on this top line, perhaps. And I'm looking for guys that shoot the puck because now, again, we mentioned that implied team total has a very high correlation with fantasy scoring. So does shooting the puck. Shots on goal plus blocked shots is a stat we look at a lot inside the Army. We add they're worth the same points, so we just add them together. And it creates a sliding scale. It comes from K-score in baseball and OB-ISO in baseball, things like that, where what we've got is a guy who might shoot the puck a lot but doesn't do a lot of blocks, or a guy who does a lot of blocks but doesn't shoot the puck much, and they're of equal value. really and truly. They've got equal floors because they're going to do some minimum activity on a night, and they're really good at one area or the other. Now, if we had a guy who was medium in both, then you're probably looking at the same type of guy. Okay, so I'm just looking for, when I add these two numbers together, a big number. So if I saw 19 and 7, Braden Point has a 26 shots on goal plus blocked shots. Steven Stamkos has 42. That's stronger. That's why he's more expensive. But down here, Kucherov's only got 20. He's got 26. So really and truly, he's not taking a ton of shots. He's taking about as many as Braden Point. Steven Stamkos is taking more shots. Steven Stamkos is also blocking more shots. Steven Stamkos has the higher floor because goals are a little bit unpredictable. As a result, for taking more shots, almost a third more shots, look, he's got a lot more goals. That's the unpredictable part, because I mean, you could very easily see this 9 as a 3, and he's just running cold right now, and nothing's going in for him. But at least he's putting the effort forth. So I would be looking at these types of numbers: shots on goals and blocked shots, to establish my floor. Goals and assists come with the territory. To see which goal or which skater might have a little better chance of getting a goal, I need a different sheet. I need to come into my skaters tab. And if this will load up for me, I'll try to load up just Tampa Bay. And what I'm going to try and show you here is the shot percentage metric. Okay, this is projected, and projections are just projections. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. But if I come over here, and it's not 17-18, it's really 18-19 stats, because until the season gets a little bit longer, we're still running off last year's numbers. I'm looking for the shot percentage of these guys. Basically, and it's not adding up quite right on this sheet, but theoretically, the shot percentage should be the number of shots on goal you land, or the number of shots you take, and how many goals go in. So 42 goals divided by 247 shots, should be, 23%. It's not, if you do the math, it's a little different. But the point is, what percentage of this guy's shots are going in the net? So if I sort by that number on Tampa Bay alone, then I can see who's likely to get. There's a high correlation again with shot percentage and fantasy points. I know, duh, right? But if I focus on a Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Yanni Gourde on the second, on one of the other lines, Tyler Johnson, these are the guys that are getting there. So what I would like to do is, if I've targeted this offense, I'd like to target these guys as much as I can within the salary cap. The guys that are getting shots on goal plus blocked shots. If I wanted to, I could take shots on goal and I could take blocks and I could add those together, because this is a season number. And then I could tie break with higher shooting accuracy. I can also scroll over here and look at a smaller sample size. And I can sort that by shot accuracy. Who is running hot right now over, let's say, the last month. If you take your sample size, you multiply by about 3. That's about how many days the sample size is. They play about every third day. So 10 games is about 30 days, which is about a month. Give or take a few games. And 5 is about 15, which is about 2 weeks. So these are good sample sizes for trends. Okay, so I might look at a guy here, and I've got the SOGBS already for me here. This is shots at 33, blocks at 9, add them up, 42. So this is a column that I love on this page, and this is a column that I love over in this section. I'm looking at who has the high shots on goal plus blocks, and then whose biscuits are going in the basket. In fact, you might even sort by floor with the SOGBS, and then take the guys with the high percentages. See, a lot of these guys that are really shooting and blocking shots aren't scoring, right now for Tampa Bay. Now, again, bear in mind, we haven't played 10 games yet this year, so this is dating back to last year too. And they were cold in the playoffs, if it's counting those. I don't really know yet, but I'm setting you up for what's to come here in the next, say, week or so, when these numbers start becoming all 2019, 2020 numbers. I'm going to be looking for a high floor, somebody who's guaranteed to be doing something and something productive, right? And then I'm going to be looking for who's actually shooting and who's actually scoring. See, like a Kucherov and a Braden Point right now might be more tournament plays for me. Yes, they're fairly active. They're going to be expensive, though. Steven Stamkos could be a cash play for me, because not only is he providing me a good floor, but he's also providing me a good shot accuracy, shot percentage. I might come over here and I might do the same thing again. Sort by descending by SOGBS. And I see that, well, there's Kevin Shattenkirk all of a sudden, who actually has gotten off to a pretty decent start this year. Come down here, where's Stamkos? Stamkos is third at 19, and his shot accuracy is at 27, 26, which is still pretty darn high, right? So he's a cash game over the last 5 games. He's a cash game over the last 10 games, and he's been a cash gamer, a cash player over the season. So Steven Stamkos is a quality cash play, especially being that tonight he's in a situation with an over 3.5 implied team total and set up to score goals, set up to be on a team that's going to score goals. He's likely to be a large part of it tonight. Does that make sense? So what I have to do is I have to thumb through my offenses. And St. Louis had a 3.6, highest implied total on the slate. I'm curious about this myself, so I'm just doing a little bit of research while I talk to you. And I'm going to scroll over here, and then we'll wrap it up after this. I mean, you see the lines that they're on, you even see the tier that they're on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say I scroll over here, and I'm going to skip past the season stats right now. I'm going to focus on the last 10 and last 5 games. And I'm going to take shot on goal and blocked shots in the last 10 games, sort by that, and I'm going to look for shooting percentage, Justin Falk. All right, so I should probably be looking for some Justin Falk right now. Very active and shooting the puck well. Right? Vladimir Tarasenko has not off to a great start so far this year. This number shows that. He's still shooting. This number shows that not a lot's working for him right now. The really accurate guys down here are on pretty low volume. Getting a little lucky, if you ask me. Come over here and confirm with a smaller sample size. So really, I'm only looking at 5% or 10% of what this tool has to offer right now. I mean, yeah, you can look at who's getting on power play, whatever, but those are such small advantages, small edges that I don't really pay much attention to those. It's just noise to me. 24 shots on goal for Vladimir Tarasenko and blocked shots and a 10% shooting accuracy. So only 2 goals have really gone in. That shows 1. So not very good. Where are shots? 20 and 1 should be 5%, not even 10%. But I go down to 20 and 21. There's Pietrangelo. There's Falk again. So Falk's at 21% again. 20. That's really strong for those, for those numbers. Parayko, Pietrangelo, 21 with a 21 shot accuracy. So I would consider him. These are guys, when they're high in both categories, I'd be looking for them in cash game type scenarios when their team's in a great spot. If their team was not necessarily in a great spot, because I didn't filter this out by just St. Louis, I would also cross-check their prices. But if I did not do this with just St. Louis, I just did the whole league, I'm going to be looking for, well, let's look for super hot guys. We're already sorted theoretically by this number, but let's look for super hot players that, going back over just 5 games, are really crushing it in the shot on goal and block shot category. They're really shooting a lot, or they're getting in the way of the puck or whatever, and they're accumulating at least a baseline of points. And then let's look, okay, Austin Matthews in Toronto. I might be off of these colder guys. Now, you can play the regression game and say, oh, this number's not going to be this low forever, and you can try and time it. That's a nice GPP type of play. But in cash games or safer lineup builds or core builds, I'm looking for what I know, which is, a high shot percentage with a high shot on goal and block shot floor. And I cruise down here and I see, who's this? Anthony Mantha. Has he been off to a hot start in Detroit? See, Detroit's not one of my targeted offenses tonight, right? I didn't mention them with Tampa Bay, Toronto, Montreal, New Jersey, St. Louis, San Jose, and Chicago. I didn't mention Detroit. He might be a nice one-off. Does that make sense? Why? Because he's pumping the shots on goal and block shots in there, and he's shooting the puck accurately right now. He's getting results. Scroll down a little bit more, and I see a 23 and a 23. That's Kevin Shattenkirk. Kevin Shattenkirk, might be a nice stack with a Steven Stamkos. 22%. Victor Arvidsson in Nashville. Burned me last night, or whatever, 2 nights ago. 30%. Sean Monahan. You've got a pretty high floor with these guys. There's some accuracy. There's some accuracy. See these 10s and 5s and 17s and stuff? Maybe not so much. I might be focused on the 20, 25s, and the 30s if I can find it. And these might be some of the guys that I would build around tonight, whether they're a one-off or a stack. Double bonus if I'm targeting the team that these guys are on. But I'm also going to look for like an Australia here, because as I learn the league, I'm going to notice that they're pretty cheap. And I want, when they're dirt cheap like that, I want this high shot on goal block shot floor, which is actually over here. I want that floor because that can almost get me to value on its own. And then if he gets me a traditional, a typical 3 or 4 or 5 shots on goal or blocked shots and then gets an assist, he smashes value. And this is a great move for cheap plays on DraftKings. So these are things that we'll talk about more and more as the season goes on. If this stuff is helping you, let me know. In the coaching forums or whatever, as I guide you through these things, because I've done it before. I can keep doing it. Newer guys get overwhelmed by this stuff. We're just trying to simplify it, try and show you what teams to target that typically are in position to do well, knowing that all bets are off in hockey because 50% consistency is great, and that's in real life that's not great, but in hockey it is. Stacking, whether you're focused on a power play or the line or the scoring line, or you're wanting to spread out a little bit for cash games and take a player off of maybe a couple of different lines, but then overlap them on the power play where they do correlate, or vice versa. Where you take them off of different power play units, but they're on the same scoring line. Those types of things. And then looking for the statistics, the key statistics that correlate with fantasy production, which is shots on goal and blocked shots and shooting percentage. And trying to find high shot on goal block shot numbers for a baseline of points, and then maybe looking over there at the shooting percentage to determine who's on a run right now, who's finding the holes in the goalie right now. And it doesn't matter that Anthony Mantha might not be as good a player as a Vladimir Tarasenko. Anthony Mantha's getting results right now, and Vladimir Tarasenko is not. So Vladimir Tarasenko might be more of a tournament play tonight, even though the team is in a smash spot. And Anthony Mantha might, because of his price and because of his production lately, whatever, it might be a little bit more of a cash type of play too. Now, in hockey, I'll leave you with this. There really is no such thing as a cash safe play because, like I said, when you're only hitting consistency at 48% of the time, heck, what are you going to do? He's just not going to do it half the time, right? But everybody's a GPP play. So that's kind of like, not all thumbs, not all fingers are thumbs, but all thumbs are fingers, if you will. Not all hockey players are cash plays, but all hockey players are GPP plays. I'm butchering the saying, but hopefully you know where I'm going with that. And you're going to correlate, you're going to stack a little bit. You're going to find these guys that are more inclined to produce, and the guys that are on good teams that are inclined to produce, and the guys that are shooting accurately and have a high shot on goal, blocked shot floor, that are inclined to produce at least a baseline of points, and guys whose maybe their price is suppressed a little bit compared to other guys that are generating the same type of statistics in their price range, but these guys are a little bit cheaper. Those are bringing the value. Those are the guys you can focus on for your cash games. But everybody's pretty much in play on a tournament because you never know when somebody's going to erupt like a James Neal, which I told you I would show you before. So sorry to derail you with this one. But let's come over here to last year's numbers and come over here to James Neal. And let's look. Only 6 goals on the year. I don't know. In 61 games. He was injured for 20 of them. But in 61 games, only 6 goals on the year. He just had 4 in one night. You tell me if it was an outlier or not. His shooting percentage is a whopping 6%. Not even the 20, 25% we're looking for. God forbid 30. 6%. So the people that were on him last night or the other night were maybe banking on a goal. They weren't banking on 4 goals. He broke the slate. Why? Because even outliers like this go off. That's hockey. Hope you have him on that night when he does. Somebody else is going to do it in another week. It's just the way hockey works. Hopefully this stuff helps. Like I said, drop me a note. Let me know that this is working for you. And I'm going to try to keep these videos as short as I can. But these kind of tutorial videos, these setup videos, these startup videos are going to probably be a little bit longer. I'm going to show you my pattern of research, and then we're going to just run on autopilot a couple of times a week and break a slate down and go this play, this play, this play, this play. And at least this way, you know where I'm getting these numbers from and why. All right, guys, we'll see you soon.